I'm going to be showing how to use OAuth 2 in Spring Boot. So here we are going to build a little application where users can log in and register using Google. And in our back end, we'll be handling that using Spring Security, OAuth 2, and Spring Boot. This front end is on React, so let's get to it. First, we are going to create our Spring Boot app. That is going to be start.spring.io. Here, you know what to do. Select Java, Maven, latest version. Just going to call this auth 2. Let me call that auth 2 project so we will not confuse it. So just call this Fagon dev. And dependency, I'm going to be using Spring Web. I'm going to be using MySQL as my database. I'm going to be using JPA for data persistence. I'm going to be using Lombok. I'm going to use my Spring Security. And then we're going to use our auth 2. That will be OAuth 2 client. So this is what we'll be using, OAuth 2 client. So our dependency themes to be complete, I'm just going to generate. So that has been, I'm just going to my downloads and I'll extract it. So I'm going to open that in my IntelliJ. And that is building below. This has been built, so I'm going to connect this to my database. I'm going to go to my application.property. I'm going to paste my DB connection. So I already have it here. I'm just going to copy it. So here I'm adding my port, which is 5050, and this is my database connectivity. I'm using my SQL, and my table name is AuthDB. So I'm going to go to my SQL workbench. I'm going to create the database. I meant to say my database name, not table. So the database has been created, AuthDB. So this is my password, username, just replace it with yours. So below here, we can see we are having our auth 2 credential. This is our auth 2 client ID, which we are going to be generating. Our secret, which we're also going to be generating. And for our scope, we'll need the user's profile and email. And here, this is going to be the link for Google to be able to authenticate and log in a user. So our base URL is going to be in production is going to be our production URL, but for testing it's going to be our local host. Let me just get rid of this. The HTTP localhost. Then my port is 5050, then slash login and this. So that is that. So I'm just going to move forward to organize my project. I'm just going to start with my controller package. I'm going to have my model. My repository. I'm going to have my service. I'm going to have enum. Let me call that enum. And I'm going to have security. So within my model, I'm going to create a user, which is going to be called user. And here, I'm going to annotate to it with my all ag and no ags. And it's going to have my data forget the setter. To have my entity annotation and my table, and the name I'm just going to call that users. So here I'm going to have my ID. It's a long ID. I'm going to have my name. Should that way? Yeah, let's have a name, email, a password, and then let me have my auth provider, since we are going to either be logging in or registering a user via the Google, via auth2 or via our local method. So if I go over here, we can see we can use our local method where a user will pass in the name, the email, and the register. Or you can click on Google. So when you're clicking on Google, that's going to be the auth provider is going to be Google, but if you're using your passing in your name directly, that's going to be local. So let us create an auth provider so we can set that in. So let me just call this provider. So this, I'm not going to import that here. I'm just going to create it in my enum. Enum. And here I'm just going to call this. It's going to be either local or Google. So you can decide to add like Facebook or other auth provider like Facebook, LinkedIn, you can just add them. But for now, let's work with these two. So this is going to be imports from auth provider from our enums, not from Java security. So let's just clear, then let's annotate with it as enum enumerated. So at here, I'm just going to say at ID at generated value, which the strategy is going to be our generated type.identity. This is going to be enum type of string. So let's not forget that our auth provider. I'm going to go to my repository and I'm create my users repository. That's an interface, and that's going to extend JPA repository, and it's going to take in the user object, which is our model user, and then the primary key of our user, which is a long. And here I'm just going to have a method to find by email. It's going to be used to find the user by email. So that is that. I'm going to my service. I'm going to create a class, and I'm just going to call that. We can call that user, or let's call it user service. Really does not matter much. So here I'm just going to annotate this with that service, and I'm just going to use our login F4J, and I'm just going to use at, let's say, require our constructor that's going to help to wire our dependencies. So here I'm just going to be using my user repository the user repository. Where is it? User repository is going to be a final, and I'm just going to also be using my password encoder since we are going to be encoding the user's password before we save. Password encoder. So moving forward, I'm just going to have, this is not like a well-structured project, so I just want to show how OAuth2 works. So moving forward, I'm just going to have my method to register a user. It's just going to return a user. In a well-suited project, we need to create a user detail so we can hide some details. So let's just continue with this. It's going to take in a user, and here I'm just going to say user dot set password is going to be a password encoder dot encode. I'm just going to get say user dot get password, and this is not our auth2 log registration. This is just our local registration. We just say register user local so we can differentiate. Then I'm just going to say user dot set auth provider, which is going to be auth provider dot local. So this is going to like differentiate a local provider, a local registration, and an auth2. So I'm just going to return user repository dot save. I'm going to save the user. So I'm also going to create a local login method as well. So I'm just it's going to be login user local. Is going to take in a user object. I'm just going to say, just going to check if the user is already there. Goes to user repository, don't find by email, and that's going to be user dot get email. If it's not there, let's just throw an error, and we'll just say you know what, if it's not there, let's just say no. It's not, don't want this to be like, let's not have validations. So if there's a user, existing user is not equals to null, then I'm just going to say password encoder dot, you know what, let me just check if the password exists, right? If the user is not null, just check if the password exists. I'm going to say if, am I doing this already 90? I'm just trying to hurry up. I go to bed, so I'll just say if not password encode. I'm just going to check if the password the user is passing correlate with the password we've encoded in our DB. Just going to say dot matches. If it matches the user dot get password, if that matches the existing user dot get password, then that means the, if it does not match, that means going through an error and say user does not, user password does not match. You know what? Not match, right? So S, let's just, if the password match, let's just return the user, right? if the user is null, it's going to throw an error on its own. So that's it. If the password does not match, then let's just say throw this error. If it's the password match, let me just return this as I just throw new runtime exception and just say user not found, right? So I think that's better. Then this is for local login. Then let also why am I returning user? Let me return the existing user, not the user. I should be returning the existing user, right? Because that's the user we actually got from the database when we try to validate the user. So now that's that. So just proceed and have our method to log in using auth2. So this is going to be public. We actually return a user and just say login, register with Google. Let's say with Google. We just say by Google. We just say OAuth, right? Two. So let me just. So this is going to take in. I think my intelligence is getting slow. I don't know. It's going to take in when the login is successful, when the information the passed collected from Google is going to be handled over here and it's going to be passed down. So it's going to be collected using a OAuth 2 authentication token. Where is that? OAuth 2 not login. Let me just type it. Authentication token, right? So this is it's going to take in. This is going to be passing from Google down to us, and we're going to handle it here, right? So here I'm just going to say OAuth 2. Where's that? What's going on here? OAuth 2 user. Okay, that's not showing up. Let me move this down. That should be capital O. Or just want it to get imported to user. Like we can see over here OAuth2 user from security.auth2.co.user, right? Then I'm just going to call that OAuth2 user equal to, I'm going to extract that, right? Which is going to be auth2 token, which we're going to be receiving from Google dot get is dot get principal. We're getting the principal data from it. And then I'm just going to extract the email and the name of the user equal to OAuth2, which is this right now, the principal dot get name get attributes, and I want to the email, I want to get the email. So I'm just going to copy this again. We can get as multiple data that we want. So this is going to be name, get attributes to get the name of the user, right? So this has been collected from the token that was passed down from Google to us. If you're using Facebook, you can also, it's a Facebook own as well. And other social media platforms have their own. So for us now, let me just log in this so we can see when we're testing, we can see that, right? I'm just going to say user from Google email is just going to put something like that. I'm just going to say email. I'm going to copy that. This is going to be username, email, username from Google. What am I doing? Username from Google is okay. Username from Google is going to be the name. So now what I'm going to do next is I'm just going to check if the user already exists. Go to user repository, dot find by email. I'm just going to check if the user email already exists. Email dot or else let me just say null. If it does not exist, let's just call it null. And here I'm just going to add a check statement and say if, let me put this up, if user equals to null, then that means user does not exist with that email. I'm just going to create a new user object and I'm just going to say user dot set name is going to be the name. User dot set email is going to be the email we've extracted from the principal token, and then user dot set authorization. Here I'm just going to say auth.google because this is coming from Google. So I'm just going to save, and that's going to be all. So I'm just going to return the saved user. User repository dot save. I'm passing in the user object. So this is basically how it's done and very straightforward. And at the end, I'm going to return a user. For now, we're not handling error. So if probably there's an error, we're not handling it, it's going to be thrown, right? So this is not like a full standard application. It's just for us to test and see how it ought to work. So I'm not doing any clean code stuff here, just basic stuff. Now let's write our controller quickly. Then go to my controller, create a class. I just call that let's say controller, and that's going to take in our REST controller. This is going to be REST API, and then I'm just going to have my fire axe constructor so I can bring in my dependency. But then let me just check here. Okay, this is final. Right, so I'm just going to private final, and this is going to be my user service. So here I'm just going to start with my registration endpoint, which is going to be /register, and this is going to be public. Say response entity of user. We just got that register, and this is going to take a body of user. I will just run the validation here, and this is going to just return response entity.ok user service.register, right? Maybe user service.register. I'm just going to pass in the user. So we also have this to log in for our local user, and then also implement for our auth2 user. So this is just going to be login local, right? So this is going to be login/local. So this is going to have a user, and it's just going to be login local user. So let's also have to log in via Google as auth2, and this is going to be Google, and this is going to be, let's call this login Google auth. This is not going to take him. This is going to this is going to be get request because we're going to be receiving this from our front end, and we're going to be redirecting it to Google to authenticate the user, and then comes back and returns a response. So we're going to see how that is done shortly. So here I'm just going to pass in my HTTP. What is that? Am I using the HTTP servlet response. Oh, that's not, I wasn't able to see that. Type it again so I can import it. TTP servlet server. Well, I saw something like that before. Servlet, not servlet, right? Servlet response, yeah. Let's got a response, and when I'm going to be doing this, we're just going to say response dot redirect. We're going to redirect this to Google so it can authenticate this user, right? I'm just going to say response dot send redirect, and if we can remember our Google redirect, which we specified here, right, which is going to be, where is it again? Which is going to be, but okay, we've not configured that. Okay, we're going to configure that shortly, but Google redirect URL is auth is auth slash authorization slash Google. So this Google authorization URL, which we're going to see when we are configuring our Google credential, right? Inspect that where OAuth2 slash authorization slash Google, right? So this is going to, Google is going to authorize this. So after Google has authorized that, and is going to send us back a response which we are going to intercept in our security configuration. And by just going to over here, I'm just going to, this should not be user, this should just be string or anything. So here I'm just going to redirect for the front end. So we're going to be using the front end for the front end to what it has to do, right? So there's going to be response entity.ok, and I'm just going to say redirecting. This is doesn't really matter. It's just just cut out the string. So we're getting an error here. So add exception to method signature, and that is that. And when this is done, we're going to then redirect to another endpoint, which we're just going to call login sources, right? So here I'm just going to call this handle Google so sources. So when this request is going to be coming from our front end, when our front end make this request to authorize a user, when it comes here, it's going to make us to Google and passing the user to the authorized credential, right? So Google is going to authorize it and is going to send us back the response, which we are going to intercept and pass it back to this success endpoint, right? So here is what we are going to collect as or two already already did that here, which we called auth2 token, right? We're going to accept that here, and here we're just going to say and get the user object if you want to, which is going to be our user service dot login register by Google auth2. I'm just going to pass in the token that we receive from Google. So here I can just return, since we are going to be making this from the front end, I just want to redirect the user to our home page, which is going to be response entity dot status, which is going to be HTTP. Let's just call it HTTP status dot not found. Is it not found? All right, so yeah, so let's just turn this to like a white card, and then let's say location, and then let's just redirect. Remember our front end, wherever is going to be our front end in production, that's going to be what we pass in here. For us, I'm then going to be using the front end with a local host 3000, and it's going to be slash home, where it is going to be the slash home, right? So let me build it before I close it up, right? So what's going on here? URI, okay. It says URI, so I'm just going to say URI.create, URI.create. I'm going to wrap everything up. Right, yeah, so this is it. So we're going to write our security. When we're done with that, I'm going to come over the flow again so we get to see how it works. So let's implement the security part. So here I'm just going to my security over here. I'm going to create a class called security config. So I'm not going to waste much time as I already have the implementation on ground. So I'm just going to come over here, just copy it and explain what is going on here. Copy that, just going to paste it here. This is our security configuration. It's pretty straightforward. We are notating it with configuration and also enabling web security. So here I'm basically having my security filter chain, and I'm going to be using course. I'm disabling the default CSRF configuration, and this is my generic um, part I want to permit, which is the slash user slash login and then log out, right? So here we have users, we have login slash Google, right? So we're going to be permitting those, and this is our auth2 configuration here, right here. We can see our login page URL is slash login slash Google, which is this. So take note of that. So whenever a request is coming in via slash login slash Google, is going to be intercepted here, and Google is going to look at it, redirect it to the actual Google point URL, which is this. And when that is done, it's going to be intercepted by this auth2 as well over here. Auth2 is going to intercept the response, and it's going to forward it to the default success URL. If there's error, it's going to forward it to the failure URL. But for us, we've not implemented this, we don't really need it. At Google is always giving a successful response. But for you at your end in production, you have a failure URL where you direct the users to an alternative login route. So for now, this is okay for us. So this is the logout. If you want to implement logout, you're basically clearing the cookies, the invalidating the section, and all of that. So that is that. So I'm just going to also come here to get my config for cross origin, since we are going to be using a different front end for this. So let me just put it here. So here I'm align all methods and origin, I'm align all and that. So everything looks set. So let me just build this and try to run to see if it's going to run. So enable. I think my operating system is kind of slow, but let's manage it for now. Let me run and see if it's going to run. Just press this. Okay, we're having some error. We can see client ID is empty, which means we need to pass in a Google client ID and secret key so we can use to log in the user. So let's do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up our Google service account. So I'm going to go here, just go to cloud.google.com. So here, click on console. So here is going to just agree. And after you've agreed, just come over here at the left, click on this navigation menu. Should I zoom it? Okay. Click on this navigation menu right here, then click on API and service. So your API and service is going to come up, then click on OAuth concept screen. Then here, first of all, we don't have a project, right? So I'm going to create a project. If you already have a project by default, that's going to be selected over here, right? If you don't have, you can click on new project, right? So at the beginning, you should probably do that. So let's go over here, click on new project. And let me just call this Fagon. I just call it Fagon Dev. Just create that. Right, so just click on that just to make sure that the project is selected. And right, so when that is selected, let me zoom this out. What you should do is, as I said earlier, let me go back again to the flow, cloud.google.com. So click on console. So it's going to, something like this is going to pop up. Then over here, click on this, then select your project. If you don't have, click on new project. Then there's going to be this navigation menu over here where my cursor is. Click on it, click on API and service. So it's going to show something like this, right? So just forget about what you are seeing here. Go over to the left and click on OAuth consent screen. Make sure your project is selected over here. So the OAuth consent screen is going to do something like this. So here, since we are using external, click on external. User type should be external. Click on create. And the app name is going to be what your project name, what you want to display to the user. For me, I just want to call this Fagon Dev. Let's say, users OAuth app. So you can just call it whatever probably what yourself a good dev or what. So in the support email, you have to click on the support email. Mine is figure dev at this. Then for logo, if you have, you can put, I don't need that. Then my domain, app domain, that is going to be your local host for your backend projects or whatever is going to be making your code. That's going to be http what is that, localhost, and port is 5050, so don't forget about that. Your port is 5050, and that is that. So developers contact is going to be facondev at gmail.com. And then when a domain is used in the consent screen, it must be pre-registered there. If your app needs to go through verification, go through this to check if your domain is authorized. Okay, so we don't need this, right? All you need is your app domain and then developer contact and your app name. So click on save and continue. So it's going to bring you to this screen, right? So here we are going to click on add or remove scope. Then here we're going to select the information we need from the user, right? So we need the user email and the profile alone. We don't need the open ID. You can click it if you need it, but for me, I don't need that on my project. I can just click on updates, right? We can see the scope are here. I can just click on save and continue. It's going to go to the next one where you have to add a test user, right? So just add user, and here I'm just going to add fagondev@gmail.com. Click on add. right? Then save and continue. And then your summary is going to tell you your user type, your app name, support email, logo, your application home link. We are done here, everything looks good. We can then back to dashboard. So after you've done that, then what you are going to do next is go to your credentials here, then click on create credential, then click on OAuth client ID, then click your application name, click on web application, then the name you can just leave your name here, then click on authorize JavaScript origin, click on where is your the origin is going to come from, click on add URI. So here your authorized JavaScript origin, that's going to be your base project URL, which is http localhost and port is 5050. Then for authorized redirect URL, then that's going to be your localhost port 5050, then slash login slash auth2 slash google slash code slash google, right? So don't forget that. That's how do we know it? This is the basic. This is the your this is Google part, and you're going to just put your localhost and ports before it. So if I go to my this, we can see right here the Spring Security or two clients redirect URL, which is this. So this is, should be exactly what you should have here, so you can easily redirect. So what you have here should be what should be here, right? So that's it. So this sets good. Let me just create. And here we can see our client ID and our secret ID. We can click on download. Before the download, let me copy, click client ID, replace it with my client ID over here, then click on client secrets, then replace it with my client secret here, and then I can download it, right? I can, the status is enabled, and I click on OK. And if I go to my web client here, I can also see the information, which is my client ID here and the client security over here, which I can still download, right? So this is properly set up. Again, let's just go over the step again. I don't know if we have enough time. Go to cloud.google.com, click on console. If you don't have a project, make sure you create a project over here. You can create a new project, go over here, navigation, go to API and service. So here, go to OAuth consent screen. So you can, right? So here you see want something like testing, just click on external, and after that you go to credential, where you have to click on create credential, where you have to select OAuth client ID, and there you just fill the information, and that's going to be it. So now let's test our project out. Let me click on run. Right? It seems to run correctly. So we can test this out. Go to my postman. Let me just go to here and just say local host 5050 slash login slash, that's going to be local, and that's going to be a post request. Then the body, let's just say JSON, and this is going to be, we have a name, right? And that's going to be, let's just say Dennis, and then we have email, that's going to be dennis@gmail.com. Let me just check if that's what I need. I need the name and email and password too. Okay, so let me not forget. Then I need password, which is Denny. So let me try this. Let's try registration first. Register. This is a local registration. So let's check that. You can see it was registered. Let me log in. Login slash local. Okay. Login slash, this should be local, right? Let me spell it correctly. We can say I was successfully logged in. If I go to my database and check, we can see my auth provider is local, right? So now let's try to log in. Um, where is that? Where is that? So let's try to log in. We're able to, log in and register using the local route. So let's try to log in using our Google, right? So this is going to be get mapping login slash Google. So let's just try that out, and it's going to redirect us to this for passing our credentials. So let's try that out. So we're expecting this to be from the front end. So let me just try that out here, right? Localhost, that's going to be 5050 slash login slash Google. So right, so this is going to be our Google login. Let me just enter. We can see it redirected us to Google, right? We can see choose an account to log in. Let me click on this. We can see this is the name we created, Figure Dev OAuth app, right? So if I click on continue, I'm going to log in. Okay, we can see try to redirect to login success, and that was not found because I did configure it properly, right? So yeah, so this works correctly. So if I go to my database and run it, we can see our log figure dev and the auth type is Google, and we can see there's no password because the auth type is Google and the name was extracted, right? So if I go to my console, we can see user email from Google is this, username from Google is this, right? So we're able to log in via Google. All right, guys, so one little correction. This in your controller where we have the login sources, this should be http status.found, right? So this should be found, not found. So this should be http status.found, and then we redirect to wherever we want to. So that was the reason why we're not able to properly redirect here. So let's make that little correction here. So let's proceed to write our front end. So I'm just going to open my terminal. I'm just going to cd it to this folder. I'm going to create my React app using npx. Create React app. I'm going to cut this. Let's just call this users out. Let's just call this users out, right? So as we can see, our app was successfully created. I'm going to open this up in Visual Studio Code. I'll come over here, open folder, and that's it'll be here, users out. I'm going to open my terminal and I'm going to just zoom this in so you can see. And I'm going to install is it Azure or Azure for me HTTP code. So let's just npm install Azure, and I'm also going to install React Route add-on for navigating. npm install. Let me just clear that up so we can see clearly. And press the npm install react router done. That is done. Let's start our project to see. Because our app was successfully created, so I'm going to do next is I'm going to create a component here, and I'm going to my app.css. I'm going to get rid of this style here. Just bring this down, and my where's my app.js? You know what's my app.css? I already have preview style down, so let me just copy that. Yeah, copy that. Just place that here in my app.js. I also have written that implementation. So let me just also copy that so we can save time. Right. So paste that here, and I'm going to this just when the path is this, you go to login just to display a component. So here I'm just going to create my components. This should be component. Let me rename this component, and I'm going to create three components: my login, my home, and my register. Alright, so here in my login, I already have my login implementation too. So let's just bring that in. It's very straightforward. It's just a form for logging in. Right, so this is basically just, let me just zoom this out so we can see. This is basically just a form right here to log in. And within the form, there's a link that says don't have an account, register. And before then, there is a link that says continue with Google, where you can log in with Google. When you click on that, that is our major concern. We just come over here and we call this endpoint, which is this to this, which is this. This is basically a get request. So this is what we are calling right here, and that's going to pick up everything, right? So this other one is just to handle our local login, which we already know how it works. So I'm going to come here and copy implementation for register as well. So copy that, come to my registration, paste it here. So we're doing the same thing here. This is our local registration, and this is the registration for our logins. The same thing is just directing us to this our API here, which it will handle everything from here. So that is that. Then let me just get my home page. All right, so my copy that, come over here in my home dot component, just paste it that. Right, so if login is successful, it's going to redirect us to our home page, right? So over here we can see if login is successful, it's directing us to our home page. And here in our API, we can see that if this is the callback, right? So if our login is successful, it's going to call this callback, which is going to redirect us to our home page here. So let's make sure our app is running, and let me just make sure my okay, we can tell our this is running here. So let me just test that out. Right, so let's just register for now. Let's register Mary at gmail.com. Password is Mary. Register. You can see registration successful, and this is registration page, right? So if I go to my DB and We can see Mary is a local register. So let's register someone else. So let's try to register using the Google registration, right? So I'm just going to come over here, just go to this email, right? So just paste it there. So let me click on continue with Google. We can see sign it brought up this thing right here. Let me click on this, click on tech. We can see sign into this, click on continue. So we can see it was signing, but it's still redirecting us to this, which is really weird, right? So if I go to my DB, I can see Figure Tech was registered, but redirect is still not working. So let me see what is going on. So let me check what exactly is wrong. So here in my security, let me push this down. So this is our, whenever it's successful, it's going to go to slash login success, right? So let's copy that and go to my auth controller. So let me paste it here to make sure my spelling is correct. And then this is going to redirect us to localhost 3000 slash home. Let me just check that. Our port is 3000 slash home is going to supposed to show this, right? So let me just restart and let me just check HTTP localhost. Okay. So let me just check if I have a free email to test, right? I just want to test this redirect. So okay, so that's my app is running correctly. So I'm going to just look for another free email. Okay, let's just check if this is free, right? Okay, click on continue with Google. It's prompting us to sign in. If I click on it, continue. We can see it's been returned to a successful page. So this is a one-time sign up. So if I try to do it again, click on Google, and you can see it's not going to prompt me to, because I've already confirmed to share my identity with this URL. So it's not going to tell me all the time to share. We can see that was successful. If I go to my database, I run that, we can see this is the last email that was added, right? And the auth type is Google. So now things are already logged in with this, right? So if I just try to log in again, let's say localhost this is my Figure. If I try to register, continue with Google, and it's going to auto sign me in, right? So as long as I've already done it a one time, it will ask me again. So this is how to implement Auth2 in Spring Boot, and your front end you can use maybe React, Angular, any other framework. So if this was helpful, you know what to do. My channel is still very at the beginning stage, so subscribe, like, let me know your comment, and also share with your friends. And yeah.